In 1970, if you were born in America, you had a 90% chance of earning more than your parents. A 90% chance, almost a certainty. Today, that same child in that same country has a 50% chance. A coin flip. That is what happened to the American dream. Not an opinion, not a political argument. A measurement made by economists at Harvard using 40 million tax records. The American dream was not a slogan. For the generation born in the 1940s, it was a statistical reality. 9 out of 10 children grew up to earn more than their parents earned. Not rich, not famous, just more. A slightly larger house, a slightly newer car. Children who got further than they did. That was the promise. And for one generation, it was kept. This wasn't magic. It was a specific set of conditions. The American economy between 1945 and 1975 grew at nearly 4% a year. And that growth, unusually for this country, was broadly shared. Union membership was at its peak. The top marginal tax rate was 90%. And the middle class expanded. Those conditions produced that 90% figure. Remove the conditions, and the number changes. If the conditions produce the outcome, what happens when the conditions are removed? That's not a rhetorical question. In 2016, economist Chetty and a team of researchers at Harvard published a study in the journal Science. They used 40 million anonymized tax records. They tracked every birth cohort from 1940 to 1984. And they measured one thing. What percentage of children earned more than their parents? The answer was not what most people expected. Children born in 1940. 92% earned more than their parents. Children born in 1960, around 80%. Children born in 1970, 62%. Children born in 1984, 50%. Same country, same promise, different result for every generation that followed. The largest declines were not at the bottom. They were in the middle. Families in the middle class saw the steepest drop in their children's chances of doing better. A child born to a middle-income family in 1940 had a 93% chance of earning more. A child born to that same income level in 1984, 45%. The American dream did not fail the poor first. It failed the middle class first. If the numbers fell this far, in this short a time, the question is not whether something changed. The question is where you were born when it changed. The same Harvard team built a second tool. They called it the Opportunity Atlas. It used anonymized data covering 20 million children tracked across their entire lives. And what it showed was something that very few people in this country want to say out loud. Your zip code matters more than your work ethic. The Opportunity Atlas showed this. 2 children born in the same county, same schools, on paper, same city. One child grows up in a higher income neighborhood. One grows up in a lower income neighborhood. By the time they are 35 years old, their average household incomes differ by $5,000 per tract. Not because of choices they made, because of the address they were given before they could speak. Here's the number that the OECD found when they looked at this same question. In America, less than 10% of sons born to low-earning fathers make it into the richest 25%. Less than 10%. Meanwhile, almost 50% of sons born to top-earning fathers remain in the top 25%. The ladder is not broken. The ladder has been pulled up. If where you're born determines more than what you do, Then what does that mean for the countries that still believe they are different? In 2020, the World Economic Forum ranked 163 countries on a single measure: social mobility. How easy is it, in each country, for a person born poor to end up not poor? The United States ranked 27th. 27th. Below Denmark. Below Germany. Below Canada. Below the United Kingdom. Below Slovenia. Now here is the number that makes that ranking concrete. If you are born into a low-income family in Denmark, economists estimate it takes 2 generations to reach the average income. Your parents work hard, you work hard. Done. In the United States, the same journey takes 5 generations. 5. Your great-great-grandchildren may be the first ones to reach average. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Because the United States spends more per student on education than almost any country on earth. And yet, mobility is lower. Denmark spends less per student. Canada spends less per student. The UK spends less per student. And their children climb further. More spending on education did not solve the problem. Because education was never the only problem. A country that invented the dream and now delivers it less than anyone else. What does that tell us about what the dream was always built on? If you are watching this, you were probably not born poor. But you may have noticed something. That doing everything right, the degree, the job, the savings, still doesn't feel like enough. That the gap between where you are and where your parents expected you to be feels wider than it should. That is not a personal failure. That is a statistical condition. Here is the full picture. The top 1% of Americans now own 31.7% of all wealth in this country, a record high, as of 2025. The bottom 50%, 166 million people, own 2.5%. And absolute mobility, the chance that a child does better than their parents, is now a coin flip. These 3 facts are not separate. They are the same fact described 3 different ways. The American dream was real. The data from 1940 confirms it. 92% of children out-earned their parents. The data from 1984 ends it, 50%. And the global rankings confirm what happened in between. The United States, ranked 27th, is no longer the country where hard work is most rewarded. It is the country where hard work is most believed in. Those are not the same thing. If the data changed, and the belief did not, what is the belief actually protecting? Systems explained honestly. Subscribe if that matters.